as if I didn't have enough chainsaw projects, I had to add a few outboards. And that's a later model, Mercury 9.9. And I spent, probably too much money on it. $600 for a supposed running motor. And, oh, by the way, it came along with this too. So there's basically the transom. I made it just a little bit wider because there was about, I don't know, a quarter inch aside that this aluminum was lacking. So I made these a little bit tighter to the hull. And this is the face of it, right? That's pretty much what came out of it. And it's pretty much ready to receive the transom and just get bolted together. Now we got it in there and clamped. The glue is still squeezed out a little bit. Made sure it's staying squeezed. We'll leave it for the 24 hours. Squeezed right out there. I like the older Mercury's better. Now we got this one running pretty quick. It had spark and it ran pretty good. But when we got into the lower unit, I started checking things out and water poured out of that. So basically the seals underneath the water pump had blown out, or the gasket underneath the water pump had blown out, and basically pumped that full of water. So it's going to be a project. I'm going to have to tear out the lower unit and it'll be a good video, right? So we're like, what do we do? I mean, I'm not going to be able to make that Mercury work in a day, right? It's going to take some parts. And basically we've had this 15 horse Johnson sort of sitting around now for, I don't know, a couple of years. No one's ever run it. It's a little dirty. Probably needs a fuel pump. And I wanted to make sure it pumped. They've got that little P valve down there. So I just put a straight tube to the where that valve goes. And let's just see if it'll start.
Walter wanted to make everybody jealous. The gas prices down here. Of course, our little co-passenger, Piper. Yay, co-passenger.
It's a beautiful day down here. Got this to deal with, so I took a scraper and peeled off the old patch with that. And what I plan to do here, wire brush it to activate the surface, put an epoxy patch on it, and then cover it with a piece of aluminum and rivet the aluminum to the bottom of the boat. That'll make it pretty stable for now. Well, kind of proved the concept. Put it in over the wall, pulled it out over the wall, and there it sits. Still leaks a little bit, but it'll do for now. We're going to put a motor on it and put it in the cradle. I think that's the goal for the night. But that's a little boat, and that's big water. Okay, so replace this line This one from the fuel pump to the carburetor. Replaced the fuel pump, spark plugs, and the fitting for the fuel line to go in there. All those have been replaced. So slid the boat right off the back of the trailer, right across the head wall right there into the water, and there it sits. So we're going to put the motor on. It's picking up a little water through the rivets. We did some repair at the bottom, but more epoxy putty than anything else, and some pop rivets. Of course, the pop rivets turned into little geysers. It's been sitting there for a few hours. Take a look and see how much water it picked up. Not enough to matter. There was some in there when I put it in. A little bit. But I'm not going to get worried about it. We're going to see if we can get it onto that lift. That's going to be the experiment. First we got to see if we have a running motor. That's first. The wind had picked up and kind of slowed us down a little bit. Didn't want to get out there to choppy waves in a fresh boat that we don't know much about, right? So.
So yes, Howie, that is your training right there. There's Piper supervising. Looks like it's running on plane a little bit better. I honestly can't see the screen, so hopefully I've got it.
Well, we got this thing running, and there's a little video of that. I'm going to go fishing. First thing I figured out about this boat, it's a lot harder to get it on plane, partly because it's heavier and wider, but that's also some of the reason why we got it from the get-go, is because it's got more freeboard and it's a wider boat. So it's a better fishing boat than OGP, but it needs a little more horsepower. Although once we get on plane, this thing goes pretty good. Now, Johnson Evinrude versus Mercury. Now I've got the 20 Mercury on OGP. That thing just flat flies. This one here, once it gets on plane, goes pretty good as well. Both of them are set up for control, so you have to operate the forward and reverse from this lever right here. You know, even though it's a tiller motor. The other Mercury in the back of that truck right there, forward and reverse are on the tiller itself. You rotate that, you go to forward, you rotate it back, you go to reverse, which is kind of cool. But one thing I like about the Johnson is you have your mixture screw right here for idle. Basically, if you turn it in, it leans things out. If you turn it out, it adds more fuel. And when you're doing a fine tune to get it to idle nice and run at a slow RPM to get into the dock, having that ability to quickly tune your motor based on the different temperatures, humidities, and stuff like that is really nice. So right now, as a all-around motor to go fishing with, not to go fast with, little things like that, and just the way the handle feels and stuff like that, I think this old Johnson 15 is a better motor. Now, that's going to get me in trouble because I'm a Merc person, number one, and there's a lot of other people who are as well. Just saying, you know. Now, another thing is, you start playing this outboard game, make sure these are secure and tight, especially with a long shaft. It'll take that motor right off the transom if they're loose, and you'll be out there drifting around wondering what the heck happened and having this big empty space back here. Now, the way this boat's set up, you notice how far I have to bring the lower unit in, the tower in, to get it on plane. The good news is it gets on plane. The bad news is at that angle I'm losing some top end. If I kick it out one position, it simply won't get it on plane. There's not enough horsepower. And having it all the way in, sure, I get up on plane, but now it starts driving the front of the boat, the bow of the boat down into the water a little bit, and you lose top speed potential. And with this boat right here, do I care? No. Really, the goal of this boat is to get out to that mooring right there, and then tie up to where I can go fishing. That's the goal of the boat. And it's a beautiful day. There's my spare tank. I ran that yesterday, so I know it works. This is my main tank. It's got a full 6 gallons of fuel. And this is how much water the boat takes on sitting for about an hour. That's about what you get. That's leaking, but that's an acceptable amount of leak for me. I can deal with that, you know. When we get it back up to New York, I have a chance to flip it over in its top. I'll seal things up a little bit better, do a little better job. But for our weekend trip down to North Carolina, this thing is working out beautifully. One of those Chit to chicken soup stories like I do with the chainsaws. That's what this boat is. And the funny thing is, I have about as much money into this as I would a chainsaw. The only difference is I can catch fish. Can you imagine trying to fish with a chainsaw? I don't think that'd work too good. Maybe as a boat anchor, but not as fish bait. So, anyway, talk to you later. Bye for now. Alright, so now for the fishing part of the channel. It's low tide right now, and I want to go out and hang out by that pole with that bird sitting on top of that mooring and see if I can't catch a real fish for once. Couple things. Now we've got a little time on this motor. It seems like it runs better every time we run it. And interesting, it doesn't lose any prime at all. So let's see how easy it is to start. We'll start with that, huh? And watch, coming right at us is a school of fish. You'll see the surface. They're coming. They're going to pick my bait clean, is my guess. Bunch of pinfish. Either that or mullet. Going right on by. See that bird? He sees dinner, is what he sees. Damn.
I don't think you got a net in here either.
Oh no, I'm gonna wish I did, because there's no way. This is more efficient than this rod can handle. There he goes. He'll tire out. It's probably a flounder. Here he goes. He's coming up. Don't go around the boat. This one's hey, oh, there he goes. God damn it.
Got a hook long.
Here he comes. See him get him up. Hope it's a drum. It's a flounder. No, it's a stingray.
Can you get him off?
Yeah.
Wait, can I start recording? He's got.
I'll be able to get him out of there. I'm just going to release him in the water. With the pliers.
Alright, I'm gonna turn this off. So.
Would you check that out? That is a crab. Now, I guess at some point a summary is in order, and I guess a comparison between that boat right there and the old Starcraft we have. This is wider and has more freeboard by a big margin, and makes it a lot more stable. For a fishing boat and dealing with the water like down here, this is a much better boat, you know. And with the seats the way they are, partly because of the freeboard, it's a taller boat, you can actually sit in that boat. Your knees are not up in your chest. So just all the way around, it's a more comfortable boat to be in. So that's the summary on that. Like a little more horsepower. It actually goes pretty decent, but it sometimes is work. And what happens is when you have two people in the boat, the way you have to have the motor set is it just ends up driving the bow right into the water, but it doesn't have enough power to really pull it up on plane if I step it out one notch, you know. So that's really it. And, you know, it's a bent up little boat, works pretty good. Doesn't use a lot of fuel. That's good. It's easy to start. The motor's easy to start. Other than that, that's about all there is to say about the boat. It works. One of the things I've discovered pretty darn quick is there's a huge difference in equipment. You know, you try bending that, it don't bend. That's really solid right there. Conversely, that thing there you can bend all over the place. Not very strong at all. Well, I think the lesson is you get what you pay for in reels. Look at that thing twist. I caught a stingray on this the other day, and that thing was just flexing all over the place, kind of a creepy feeling. Whereas that pin right here, that thing's solid. That stem right there is a metal. It does not bend. Much better piece of equipment. And this rod, this is a St. Croix. I've been using this for my light rig. I know it's a little bit long. I've been very, very pleasantly surprised with the way this thing operates. Very nice rod and reel. And that's the only lure I've caught any fish on down here, right here. Get the mullet jumping. And that kind of looks like a pinfish, I think is why. So, beautiful place down here. But you got to know how to fish it. And I'm just learning. That rig right there caught a fish. That's using that snap or popping float right there. And a jig head in either live shrimp or Berkeley gulp shrimp, the larger ones. Seems to work pretty good down here. And I haven't run the camera as much as I normally do. Partly because I don't catch anything for a long time. I just shut it off. And also I catch something. The camera's not on. And I'm too much caught up in the heat of the moment. The only time I actually got video of a catch is when I caught the stingray. Had to let that go. Fishing party is coming to an end. There's a storm coming in. Got these just being a half a mile out, probably not the best idea. So I better get in and call it a night, get the boat up in the trailer, or have to go out tomorrow. I'm not really ready to go home, but it's time. So this little boat, put the transom in it, put that little motor on it. Had a lot of fun this last couple of days. Didn't catch a lot of fish, but got a lot of ride time in the boat, and that was a lot of fun. So I think this will be video worthy. A good old-fashioned chit show.
No, this is the new stuff. Altitude's 896, and the top speed was 17.3.
Speed Pro Plus.
Pro Plus.
I'm gonna go see what the horsepower rating is on this too. See if this can handle a 6-cylinder. I know this one can. Yeah, I did the water pump in that one.